Hello YouTube, I'm doing a video today or tonight on the length of the tribulation. I just want to establish some facts with you, set some of the groundwork before we talk about some interesting topics like the rapture, because I see a lot of misconception on YouTube. A lot of people ignore scriptures, even unfortunately to say people who I probably consider are brothers in the Lord, who I believe I don't know any better than to say they could be born again, definitely from what I see, but they just, for whatever reason, they may not have a gift of teaching or know anyone who does, or they may just, and therefore assume that if they don't understand it, no one can understand it. And that's not correct, because things are written in Scripture very clearly, and people often take Scripture and they blame others for not reading Scripture. For example, people who don't like the pre-tribulation rapture will say, those pre-tribulation guys, they're just quoting a bunch of things. It's not scriptural. Now I'm going to tell you in a scriptural way, and they go and they take one verse like, the blessed hope. Oh, our blessed hope is Jesus. It's not a rapture. Looking for the blessed hope in Titus. They take this verse out of and they call that a scriptural. They're doing a scriptural study. Now that's not a scriptural study. They looked at a verse and they start to go on about it and tell you what they think that means without context or other verses. Now let me just tell you, just for looking at the verse about the blessed hope, Titus says looking for that blessed hope. Now the Greek word means something that has not come yet. You're waiting for something that's to come. So if our blessed hope is Jesus Christ, being saved by him, that means we are looking and waiting for that to happen. In other words, we're not saved, so it doesn't make sense. So we must be, even if Jesus Christ is our blessed hope, we're looking for and waiting for him for what? For what? To return. So unless the rapture is after the second coming, you're waiting for the rapture. So that's just one example of how people everyone claims to be doing a biblical study and they don't do it. And I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to fight anybody online. I don't like division. I'm sick and tired of all these people just bickering about things, but we have to establish some truths here. And I'm not going to sit here and have big debates with people, by the way, but I'm going to establish some truths with you all about the end times, and we need that. That is sorely needed, I think, for true brethren. If you're not interested and you're going to pick arguments, I suggest you probably don't look at my channel anymore. I don't want viewers, thank you. I'm not interested in arguments, and I'm not interested in worldly appraisals. I just want to give you the word from Jesus Christ, and I don't claim to have all the answers. But we're going to look at the word properly as much as we can and stop all this talk. So now that I've had the introduction to basically my whole series on the end times, which I'm going to be doing, let's talk about the length of the tribulation. Let me start reading for you. Okay, so most of you know about Daniel's 70 weeks. Okay, so you've heard about there are 70 weeks determined for your people, Israel. This is in Daniel 9. Okay, if you see Daniel 9, 25 and 26, it says there are 69 weeks. What does it say there? The going forth of the commandment and to rebuild Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. 69 weeks. That's Daniel 9, verse 25. And then it talks about Messiah will be cut off in 26. So you're talking about Jesus Christ here. Okay, and I've mentioned in my other video in Matthew 24 that The Coming Prince is a book. I believe it's written by an investigator for Scotland Yard or something like that, but it's a famous book. You can get it anywhere, and it shows you how this guy basically proved, in an effort to disprove it, interestingly enough, I think he actually proved that to the day that Daniel was correct, and it is in fact 69 times 7, 69 weeks of years times 7 years from the rebuilding of Jerusalem before Christ until when Christ was cut off. And he says that's on the day that he came riding in the donkey. He calculated it to the day, I believe. That's what I encourage you to take a look. Anyway, but it says there are 70 weeks. So we got 1 week missing. Okay? Now people will say, well, how do you know this is, the end times? I mean, guys, and they'll say that, it's just another way to dissect the 70 weeks, and that the 70 weeks, you can see them as you like, and everyone just brushes off scripture. It's too hard. That's nonsense. It's right there, right? After 62 weeks, after 69 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. This is Daniel 9:26. And the people of the prince that shall come to shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. Now, what happened there? People came to destroy in 70 AD. They're called the Romans. That's part of Rome, right? And it's funny, in Daniel you find that the new empire is the Roman Empire, new Roman Empire, right, at the end of the age. So the people of the prince that shall come will destroy your sanctuary. So the Romans destroyed it. So there's a prince coming. Has he come yet? Well, you should read the whole of Daniel. No, he hasn't come yet, because he's going to do things that never been seen before. He's the last key. He's the Antichrist, right? So the Antichrist is therefore Roman, by the way. And the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And he shall confirm, this prince, right, shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. Right, so this last week, it's about some prince coming and confirming a covenant with many. By the way, not making confirming, but that's all right, doesn't matter. And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. So some covenant is made. Is it about a sacrifice? Possibly. Is it sacrifice included in the covenant? Definitely, obviously, from this, but we don't know exactly the covenant. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, to the end. So there's a week. From the middle he stops sacrifice until the end, and it's desolate. Okay, even until the consummation, that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So I've done a series on Matthew 24, and which shows you, by the way, if you're not familiar with it, that Matthew 24 and Luke are talking about the tribulation and Israel and its other saved people who are saved still by the blood of Christ, because I've seen some people argue some very strange things on here. They're still saved by the blood of Christ. Absolutely, let me tell you that. But they will come to the Lord. They will have their last week. Israel has 70 weeks left. People say, how can there be this pause and this gap between the 69th and 70th? There is not. You give me the proper explanation from Scripture. Don't come and tell me what you think. Show me from the Scripture I just read even then, and explain how else it works. Okay? So there was a 69 weeks, the Messiah's cut off, and then we have this church age. Then we have this last week, which is for the Jewish people. Quite clear. It's Israel's week, right? Okay? The Antichrist makes a covenant with many in Israel. And midway through, he breaks that covenant, or he causes the abomination, the sacrifice to cease, and the abomination that makes desolate to occur. Now we read from elsewhere, read Thessalonians, 2 Thessalonians. We'll go into that in another video, and that's he will sit in the temple, calling himself God, as God. So see, he stops the sacrifice. Why? Because why would you sacrifice to someone up there? He is God. He is to be worshipped as God. And Revelations will tell you all about that. Let's look at some other scriptures. So you've got 1 week. So, just from that scripture alone, it says 1 week of years. And if you look at the rest of it, well, there you go. You've got a 7-year period. But let's back that up immensely. Okay. Thus he said, Daniel 7, verse 23. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. This is the kingdom I was talking about, the beast, the Roman kingdom. And another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse, different from the first, and shall subdue 3 kings. So when this guy comes into power, it looks like he'll take over 3. There will be 10 rulers at this time, and somehow 3 will be crushed to allow him to come into power at that time. That's not relevant to our discussion, but just letting you know that's what it seems to say. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High. Yeah, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and to destroy it to the end. So there's a period there, right, where it says that he can change times and laws. Where when you read elsewhere, this is called the Great Tribulation. This is where he goes. It's the Antichrist when he reveals himself after he, in the middle of the week, breaks the covenant and goes, all out and reveals himself for who he really is. Even though you'll know who he is when he comes out and makes the covenant. But this is when he really, really wants to be worshipped as God. And if you read I did another thing in Revelations 13, and he's been given great power over the saints. And this was in the mid-tribulation when he was given power over the saints. Okay, it says that he's given power of the saints. After basically he's inhabited by some I don't know if it's from the bottomless pit. There's something that comes there, but he's basically the midpoint is the deciding point of when the Antichrist it requires everyone to get the mark of the beast. Okay, so anyway, he shall speak that in the time, and it's given to his hand until a time, times, and dividing of time. Time, times, dividing of time. 3.5 times, 3.5 years. Now, just to show you this, look at Kill and Dillich. They do some excellent work on the Hebrew language, and what they say about the times, and half a time, dividing of time, half a time, is that the simple plural. Yeah, good night to you. You too. Sorry, my wife just said good night to me. Let me continue my YouTube video very quietly, very nicely. Anyway, Anyway, times, and the dividing of time. So what you've got here is Kill and Dillich even say, for times, we're not making this up, guys. We don't say times must be 2 to fit our doctrine. It's the opposite, okay? 2 times. They say it's 2 times. A time is 2. Why? It's used to denote, I'm quoting here, a pair when used in Hebrew. A pair, 2. Time, times, and dividing of time, half a time. Okay? And it's 3.5 years. For 3.5 years, this guy is given power, like ridiculous power. And then the Lord has allowed it. Okay? So you've got 7 years. So even if you disagree with the 1 week, you've got this. Let's keep going. Okay. What about Revelation 13? And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. I've told you, when the beast comes back after a war in the middle of tribulation, he's going to be resurrected. He's going to be the new Christ. The world's going to wonder at him, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? No one can. He comes back from the dead. No one can make war with him. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him. Wow, this is the same as we just read in Daniel. This great blasphemies, he's allowed, power was given unto him how long? 42 months. Now, if you're still not clear that maybe the tribulation period, there's a period where he goes really strong, 42 months, 3.5 years, okay? 12 months in a year, 36 months in 3 years, plus 6 is 42, okay? Now, let's keep going. Revelation 11. And there was given to me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple, leave out and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. Talking about the temple here. Remember we're talking about the sacrifice and the covenant and the holy city they shall tread underfoot. How long will they tread the holy city underfoot? 42 months, 3.5 years. Thank you. Revelation 11 verse 2. And Revelation 11 verse 3, and I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. The Lord confirms things many times. For those of you who thinks he doesn't tell us when the rapture is, which I'll show you later, you're not correct. For you think he doesn't tell us how long the tribulation is, you're also not incorrect. It may not be simple to interpret this because it requires the Spirit and also the right gifts and the right patience. But I'm telling you here, 1,203 days is 1,260 days, which in the calendar of 360 days, the prophetic calendar years, is 3.5 years. Okay, so let's read Daniel 12:11. Lastly, and from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that makes desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. 30 days more than before. 3.5 years plus 30 days. Right? Blessed is he that waits and comes to the 1,305 and 30 days. What is that? 335 days. So I did add that one in there, not to confuse you, but I want to tell you just explain one thing in case you see that and are a bit confused. The tribulation is clearly 7 years. 1,260th day is the middle of the tribulation. I believe there's other verses which show that the sacrifice will begin. I'm not so sure that, can't remember, it doesn't begin at the beginning. I think the covenant begins at the beginning, the sacrifice begins after, the sacrifice is stopped in the middle. There's another 3.5 years, and then there's a period after the tribulation. We even see in Matthew 24, it says, immediately after the tribulation, those days, the sun and the moon will have, darkened and all these signs and red or whatever it is. And there's other periods, and it talks about the Lord coming down, cleansing. They cleanse the temple for the Lord when he comes down on his throne for the millennium. So you have an extra few periods at the end, and it also makes sense why people will not be able to tell the exact day and the hour as well, because there are going to be, it's not all clear cut, right? We don't know, not everything is described, but the length of the tribulation of 7 years with some periods at the end is definitely described, So thank you, brothers and sisters. I just wanted to basically set the foundation for some work, some teaching I'm going to be giving you in the end times, and for godly use only, just so we can give the true saints a blessed hope and an understanding of what is to come, and also how imminent the return of Christ really is. And God bless you all. And as I said, this is not for arguing. This is for encouragement only. If you're going to argue about this, it's probably better that you do that elsewhere. Thank you.